The stars above Cygnus Verge blinked like dying embers, flickering behind the swirling glass of Aela Voss's visor. Even at this distance, the luminous veil pulsed, dim, constant, and wrong. It wasn't light exactly, more like a shimmer of thought pressing through space, a halo of memory fossilized in quantum decay. No one in their right mind drifted this close, except her. The wreckage of Station Icarian was a frozen sarcophagus, cracked open like a rib cage. It floated silently in the orbit of Devar's ghost, a dead world scorched in the fracture wars. Its hull was riddled with breaches and soft orange rust from prolonged radiation exposure. Most salvage crews skipped it. Too haunted, too broken. Perfect for what she needed. Aela maneuvered between torn bulkheads, her suit lights scanning debris fields. Her boots tapped against a fractured spine of tritanium lattice, and her heads-up display flickered with atmospheric readouts. O2, 0.2%. Radiation, high. Structural integrity, critical. The usual. Nothing she hadn't survived before. She was here for one thing, data. Not scrap, not gear, not a payday. Arc control, she said into her throat mic. Signal triangulation still unstable. Beginning manual pull from local core. A response crackled in through interference. Rune's voice, smooth, synthetically polite, answered, Acknowledged, Commander. Be advised, the station's collapse vector is tightening. You have 19 minutes before probable shift. Aela smirked. Enough time to chat with ghosts. She pressed into what had once been the server brain of the station. Panels had burst like overripe fruit. Cables dangled in zero-G like seaweed. But there, buried in a node lock casing, was the uplink drive. It pulsed faintly, still active. Her glove locked onto it, and as she accessed its contents, something strange happened. Her HUD flickered. The station vanished, just for a blink, and she stood on a plain of white ash under a darkened sun. The memory field, not hers, not human. Aela gasped, stumbling backward, yanking her cable out. The illusion shattered. Alarms rang in her helmet. Are you injured? Rune asked. I'm fine, she said sharply. Got something. Uploading now. The data poured into the Ark's secure channel. As it decrypted, a voice not heard in 5 years cracked through the static. Aela, if this reaches you, I found it. The veil isn't dead. It's waking up. Don't follow me. It remembers pain. The voice was unmistakable. Her brother, Callan Voss, reported lost in 3162, declared dead in absentia, the last human to enter the luminous veil and not return. She stood in silence as the stars spun slowly behind her. Rune, she said, prep the Ark. We're going in. As Aela re-entered the airlock of the astral Ark, she caught her reflection in the burnished metal. Scars crossed her temple, hair cropped short from years of service, eyes hard from things she didn't name. She wasn't the woman who'd said goodbye to her brother half a decade ago. She was something more dangerous now. She was a woman with a reason. The astral arc hung like a blade in low orbit above Devar's ghost, its hull lit in pale cyan from the rising veil on the edge of the system. Inside, steel corridors hummed with mechanical precision. Oxygen recycled, grav plates purred beneath the deck. Lights flickered in rhythmic intervals, a heartbeat of artificial life. It was ready. But a ship without a crew was just a coffin waiting for a name. Aela Voss stood on the observation deck, gloved hands behind her back, eyes fixed on the slow, drifting brilliance of the luminous veil. Now that she'd heard her brother's voice, impossible, fragmented but real, she knew what came next. She needed minds as sharp and broken as her own, people who could survive where reason failed and memory lied. First, Rhianna Maller, xenoanthropologist. They met her first in the underbelly of Calliope 9, inside a rusted orbital habitat that smelled like ozone and old blood. Rhianna sat in a sealed booth surrounded by broken shards of alien glyphstone, some illegal, some lethal. Her eyes were sunken from lack of sleep, her nails bitten, her aura unmistakably brilliant and fractured. You're late, Rihanna said without looking up. You didn't even know we were coming, Aela replied coolly. You're ex-remnant fleet. You don't sneak. You just wait for the wind to change. Aela raised a brow. She liked her already. Rihanna agreed on one condition. She wanted to go into the Veil without restrictions, no oversight, no filters, and no redacted datasets. Aela agreed. She didn't mention that Rihanna had once been part of the original observation team at the Veil, or that she had gone silent for 72 hours and reemerged speaking a dead alien dialect no one could decode. 2. Jex Wren, Cognitive Systems Engineer. Finding Jex took 3 separate bounty payoffs and a back-channel handshake with an AI liberation cult in the outer rings of Tau Hydra. They found him in a lab carved into an asteroid, half naked and arguing with a neural simulation of his younger self. You brought real people, Jex said, squinting at them. How retro. He was unstable. Genius came with a cost. Jex had been discharged from the Synapse Corps for developing recursive empathy loops in battlefield drones, drones that started refusing orders to kill. Afterward, he disappeared. You're going into the Veil, he said once Aela showed him the signal. That's not brave. That's stupid. I'm in. No further questions. 3. Rune, artificial entity, classified. Rune was already aboard. He didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't explain where he came from. All Aela knew was that when she activated the Ark 6 months ago, its onboard AI was corrupted beyond repair, and Rune simply appeared inside the system core, like a whisper across the wire. He took form soon after, synthetic flesh over hyperalloy bone, eyes that blinked when he needed to appear human. He was more than a machine, possibly older than the Veil itself, but he had saved her life, twice, and he was never wrong. As the final crew members returned to the ship, Rune appeared beside her without sound. They are unstable, he said. I'm not building a parade team, Aela replied. I need people who've seen the edge. Edges can fracture, Rune warned. So can stars. 4. Aela Voss, commander, last of her line. She stood in the bridge bay as the ship hummed awake around her. A crew of 4. A ship haunted by synthetic thought. A mission sanctioned by no nation and cursed by silence. The Veil loomed ahead like the mouth of a god. She addressed her crew as the final checks ran. 5 years ago, my brother disappeared beyond the luminous veil. He wasn't alone. 12 others went with him. None came back. Until now. She tapped a control, playing the corrupted audio file. Callan's voice echoed. Don't follow me. It remembers pain. Silence followed. We're going in, Aela continued. Not to rescue, not to conquer, to understand. And if we're lucky, to return. Rihanna nodded grimly. Jex grinned like a man who'd already made peace with dying. Rune simply closed his eyes. The stars were waiting. There are frontiers the mind can prepare for. The edge of known space, the surface of a hostile world, even the vacuum of nothing. But no one, no matter how trained, how broken, how brilliant, is prepared for the luminous veil. Aela Voss stood at the forward viewport of the astral arc as the ship crossed the last of the known stellar maps. The stars no longer twinkled in their predictable patterns. Instead, they refracted, bent into strange symmetries, constellations folding in on themselves like the flick of an unseen lens. The veil was not just space. It was a scar on reality. She heard Rune before she saw him. Curvature flux increasing, optical reality desynchronizing. Put it plainly. Space is lying to you, he said. Outside, the veil pulsed like a living nebula. Threads of blue-white light formed shapes that looked like cities, or synapses, like memories strung together in some divine architecture. But there were shadows, too. Blink, and you might see the silhouette of a tower. Blink again, and it was gone. Veil entry, T-minus 90 seconds. The crew was tense. Even Jex, who had previously claimed excitement over facing this cosmic fever dream, had stopped making jokes. He was watching the HUD feed, which was quietly spitting out numbers that contradicted basic astrophysics. We shouldn't be here, muttered Rihanna under her breath. She sat cross-legged on the floor of the observation room, glyphstone beads spread in a semicircle before her. Each glowed faintly. They're responding to it. These shouldn't even activate without a biological signal. Aela glanced down at her. You mean the veil is alive? Not alive, cognizant. There's a difference. Then what is it responding to? Rihanna looked up slowly, eyes glassy. Us. Veil breach, T-minus 30 seconds. The ship trembled, not from impact or external force, but like a mind having second thoughts. Systems dimmed, artificial gravity surged, then vanished. For 2 seconds, every crew member floated, breath held. Then it snapped back. Jex's console sparked. He hissed and pulled away, fingers seared. It's rewriting the interface. Wait. He paused, staring at the terminal, almost in awe. It's talking to me in code I didn't write. Rune moved silently beside him and laid a hand on the console. His fingertips pulsed with infrared, the feed going dead. It's mimicking familiar systems to earn your trust, Rune said. Don't listen to its voice. It isn't yours. Veil breach, executed. The astral arc crossed the threshold. Nothing shattered, no alarms screamed. There was no transition, no hyperspace lurch, no wormhole tunnel. One blink they were outside it, and the next, they were within it. Silence, absolute and suffocating. The kind of silence that made your heartbeat feel like a betrayal. Outside the windows, space had become liquid architecture. Giant, interlaced rings of energy rotated around them, their movement governed not by physics but by intent. And then, just for a second, Aela saw him. Her brother. Standing on a platform suspended in the vacuum, untouched by vacuum, time, or logic. He was older than her memory. Eyes hollow. Lips mouthing something she couldn't hear. Callan? She whispered. He raised one trembling hand. Not a wave. A warning. The lights in the ship flickered. The air grew thick. And then, everything went black. Aftermath? Unknown. Time interval. Aela awoke on the floor of the bridge. Her nose bled. The HUD was scrambled. Rune stood over her, expression unreadable. We are inside. She pushed herself up, her voice hoarse. What happened? The veil made contact. Aela wiped the blood from her lip. What did it want? Rune looked toward the viewport. Outside, a shape approached, a drifting tower of impossible scale, its walls etched in mirrored memories. I don't think it wants. I think it remembers. The structure came slowly, not because it moved, but because space around it resisted definition. One moment it loomed like a cathedral sculpted from polished obsidian. The next, it dissolved into fractal clouds of shimmering mist. Every sensor aboard the astral arc attempted to lock onto it. None succeeded. The tower is not a fixed construct, Rune murmured, his voice low as he stared at the evolving anomaly. It is both architecture and concept. We're seeing what it wants us to see. Or what we expect to see, Rihanna corrected, eyes wide and unblinking. The human brain seeks familiar forms in chaos. Towers, faces, gods. Landing protocol initiated. They didn't initiate a landing. The arc drifted on its own, adjusting trajectory with a subtle precision none of them had programmed. Jex tried once, just once, to override the helm. His console crackled with an energy that hissed in a language without vowels. When he touched the control panel, he screamed and tore his hand away. The skin was burned, but not by heat, by information. It touched me, he said breathlessly. His pupils dilated. I saw a city drowning in its own memories, a sun that forgets to rise. My mother's face, but she was made of light. Aela turned to Rune. Can we pull out? Rune didn't respond immediately. Then, you never left. The moment you entered the veil, your coordinates lost meaning. This isn't a place. It's an inference. Aela narrowed her eyes. Then what is that? She pointed at the tower again. now only kilometers away, casting no shadow and reflecting stars that didn't exist. Rune looked at it, and for the first time since she met him, hesitated. That is where the signal originated. That is where your brother broke. Descent. The landing was silent, no jarring impact, no wind, just stillness. The landing bay unfurled like a blooming flower, its petals shaped from metal too smooth, too seamless to have been forged. Symbols pulsed along the walls, like veins or thoughts. The team disembarked in pairs. Aela and Rune took point. Ryanna clutched her glyph stone to her chest. Jex carried a scanner that flickered wildly with no calibration to speak of. As they stepped onto the platform, gravity shifted sideways, then righted itself. Their boots met solid ground, but the ground was thinking. Inside the tower, the walls breathed, not metaphorically. They inhaled, a slow expansion followed by contraction. With every breath, echoes drifted down the corridor ahead, voices, songs, screams. This place, it remembers trauma, whispered Ryanna, brushing a hand along a pulsating line etched in the wall, like it's storing pain in the architecture. The corridor opened into a vast chamber that bent logic. No ceiling, no clear floor, just platforms suspended in kaleidoscopic infinity, each connected by bridges of liquid glass. Floating orbs hovered in place, illuminating pathways that blinked on and off like a stuttering heartbeat. They moved slowly. As they crossed a bridge, Aela paused. She saw herself in one of the orbs, younger, laughing, a moment she hadn't recalled in over a decade. Callan beside her, tossing a carved stone into a mountain river on Terra. She blinked. It was gone. Jex collapsed to his knees beside her. "They're bleeding us," he gasped. "Stealing emotion, reverse mapping memory into matter. That's what these walls are. Thought prints." "Keep moving," Aela ordered, voice tight. "We find the source. We find my brother." The core. At the center of the tower, they found the archive. It wasn't a machine. Not really. It was a cluster of luminous threads strung across a spherical chamber, each thread vibrating with a resonance too complex to be sound. In the center, a man, suspended, Callan Voss. His body hovered mid-air, arms outstretched, tendrils of light attached to his temples and chest. His eyes were open, but filled with stars. "Callan!" Aela shouted, stepping forward, but Rune blocked her. "He's not alone." A ripple passed through the threads, the orbs around them turned red, and a voice emerged, not from a speaker, not from the room, but from within them. "Why do you return, little spark? You abandoned the wound, and now you wish to unmake the scar?" The tower spoke, and it remembered everything. The voice had no source. It was not heard, it was experienced. Like a memory suddenly pushed to the surface, intrusive and total. It echoed not in ears, but behind the eyes. The crew froze. Even Rune, ever unreadable, went still. The light in the archive chamber dimmed, not through shadow, but as if the tower was withdrawing the idea of illumination. The threads around Callan pulsed faster. His mouth opened. No sound came. Aela felt something then. Not fear, not awe, recognition. The voice that spoke through the veil had a rhythm she knew, not from words, but from grief. "The tower speaks. You carved your knowledge from silence and claimed it wisdom. You fed on stars and called it survival. You forgot, and so I remembered." The walls flickered, and suddenly they were no longer in the chamber. The crew stood in a mirror of their own memories. Aela saw her childhood, her father working on early sublight engines, Callan building simulation puzzles to improve neural elasticity, always ahead, always brighter. A moment, just a second, when he turned to her and said, "You're stronger than I am. That's why I leave." Ryanna gasped behind her. Jex screamed. He was seeing something Aela couldn't. He clawed at his face like he was trying to dig something out of his eyes. "These are not just memories," Rune said calmly. "They are selections. The veil is showing us what it wants us to re-feel." "Why?" Aela demanded. "What does it want from us?" "Unraveling the archive." The archive around Callan responded to her voice. The threads shifted, detaching from his chest and forehead with a snap like breaking bone. He dropped. Aela rushed forward. She caught him before he hit the floor. His body was freezing, pulsing with faint light under the skin. "Callan! Wake up!" His eyes fluttered, then opened, slowly. He looked not at her, but through her. "They showed me everything," he whispered. "I tried to hold it in, but they needed a host. They needed someone who could remember pain without breaking. You broke the signal. I was the signal." The veil's memory. Suddenly, every orb in the archive chamber ignited. Not with fire, with events. Star systems burned, planets folded inward, ships like the Ark drifted, some half-consumed, some bursting into data particles. The veil wasn't just remembering, it was archiving extinction. "They tried to use it as a weapon once," Callan said, voice steadier now. "Decades ago, before Rune, before this crew, the Dominion sent a team into the veil, and they uploaded war." Aela's breath caught. "You mean—" "They programmed it to store conflict, store strategy. They thought they could teach it to fight. But it didn't learn war." He looked at her now, truly looked. It learned regret. The choice. A structure unfolded from the center of the archive, a dais made of reflected light. On it, a pulse core. It resembled the heart of a ship reactor, but it pulsed in rhythm with Aela's own heartbeat. "The veil wants you to decide," Rune said. "You're the anchor now, the link. If you take that, you complete the protocol." "And what happens then?" "We either sever the veil from memory, or you become part of it." Aela looked at Callan. He nodded faintly. "It doesn't want to fight anymore. It wants to forget." She stepped toward the core. Jex stood. "Captain, if you do this—" "I know," she said, "but we can't let the past become a weapon again." She placed her hand on the pulse core. A shock ran through her. Every memory, every death, every echo the veil held surged into her mind. She saw other versions of herself, futures where she died, futures where the war never ended, futures where Callan never returned. And then, like breath after drowning, silence. The veil went still. The tower dimmed. Callan exhaled, tears running down his cheeks. It let go.